What happens when one of Hollywood's most respected legends walks onto a morning show and refuses to play along with the script? What viewers witnessed that day on Good Morning America would soon become one of the most unforgettable moments in live television. Kevin Costner, calm, confident, and famously unfiltered, came face to face with Michael Strahan for what was meant to be a friendly, light-hearted interview. But within minutes, the atmosphere shifted, and what began as polite conversation quickly spiraled into a tense standoff that left the entire studio silent. The show opened with its usual upbeat energy. Cameras rolled, the audience clapped, and Michael Strahan flashed his signature smile. Across from him sat Costner, there to promote his latest Western series, a project already creating major buzz across Hollywood. Producers expected an easy, uplifting segment, the kind that trends online for all the right reasons. But when Strahan leaned forward and asked his first question, things took an unexpected turn. "You're returning to the Western genre," Strahan began casually. "Some critics say it feels like you're retreading old ground. What do you say to that?" The room seemed to tighten. Costner's face remained calm, but there was a flicker behind his eyes. Subtle, sharp, impossible to miss. "Retreading old ground," he repeated slowly. "That's an interesting way to frame it." Strahan kept smiling, unaware that the tone had shifted. "Well, you've done Dances with Wolves, Open Range, Yellowstone, all major hits. Some people are wondering if you're just going back to the same well." Costner leaned back in his chair, folding his arms. "Michael," he said, his voice low and measured, "when you played football, did you throw one kind of pass every time, or did you adjust based on what the defense gave you?" The crowd chuckled lightly, sensing tension beneath the surface. Strahan tried to keep it light. "Well, I was a defensive end, so I didn't throw passes on, but I see what you're saying." "Do you?" Costner asked, still composed but now unflinchingly direct. "Because what you just said suggests that telling stories about the American West is somehow repetitive. These aren't just cowboy tales. They're stories about survival, sacrifice, and what it means to build something bigger than yourself. If you reduce that to retreading old ground, you're missing the point." The audience grew quiet. Strahan shifted slightly, his practiced composure beginning to crack. "I didn't mean any disrespect, Kevin," he said carefully. "I was just asking the question people are asking." "People," Costner repeated, eyes narrowing. "Or the producers who wrote that question on your cue cards." Strahan laughed awkwardly, trying to diffuse the tension. "Come on, we're just having a conversation here." "Are we?" Costner countered, his tone calm but edged with steel. "Because it feels like you're more interested in creating a headline than understanding what we're doing with this project." "That's not fair," Strahan said, now visibly defensive. "I've been nothing but respectful." "Respectful?" Costner raised an eyebrow. "Respectful would be doing your homework before sitting down with someone. Respectful would be recognizing that setting a story in the same era doesn't make it the same story. But this industry doesn't care about that anymore, does it? Morning shows like this one churn through guests like products, all surface-level questions designed to get clicks, not conversation." You could have heard a pin drop. The crew stood frozen. Strahan's co-hosts exchanged uneasy glances off camera. Live television has no safety net, and everyone knew they were witnessing something raw and unscripted. "I think you're reading too much into a simple question." Strahan tried again, his voice tight. "A simple question," Costner echoed, nodding slowly. "You're right, it was simple. It was lazy. And frankly, Michael, I expected better from you." The words hit like a gut punch. Strahan's smile vanished completely. "Excuse me?" he asked. "You heard me," Costner said, unwavering. "You've been in this business long enough to know the difference between a question that sparks thought and one that just chases engagement. Instead, you went for the cheap shot, the angle that makes me look like I'm stuck in the past. You wanted your viral moment, congratulations." The studio fell into stunned silence. Strahan sat motionless, searching for a response, but none came. Costner didn't gloat, didn't raise his voice. He simply leaned back, calm and unbothered as the broadcast cut to commercial. What was supposed to be a routine morning show interview had turned into a masterclass in composure, and a moment that left audiences everywhere talking long after the cameras stopped rolling. Michael Strahan shook his head, visibly frustrated. "That's not what this is about," he said firmly. "Then what is it about?" Costner challenged, his tone cutting through the tension like a blade. Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you're more interested in being a personality than being a journalist. Strahan leaned forward, his voice taking on a rare edge. Kevin, I've interviewed hundreds of people on this show. Presidents, athletes, actors, musicians, and I've always shown respect. But right now, you're sitting here questioning my integrity on live television. I'm questioning your preparation, Costner corrected coolly. There's a difference. And if you're feeling defensive about it, maybe that tells you something. I'm not defensive, Strahan shot back quickly, though his posture said otherwise. I'm just confused why you're coming at me so hard over a standard interview question. Costner shook his head slowly. That's the problem, Michael. You think it's standard. You think it's acceptable to invite someone onto your show, ask for their time, their energy, their willingness to be vulnerable in front of millions of people, and then hit them with questions that show you haven't even bothered to understand what they're doing. He leaned forward slightly, his voice low but commanding. Do you even know what this series is about? Do you know what makes it different from anything I've done before? Strahan opened his mouth to respond but stopped. The pause said more than words ever could. That's what I thought, Costner said quietly. You don't know because you didn't ask. You didn't care to find out. You just saw Western, saw my name, and figured you could coast through this on charm and a teleprompter. That's not true, Strahan insisted quickly. I do know about the series. It's about a family torn apart by the Civil War. Brothers on opposite sides, loyalty, betrayal. You read the press release, Costner interrupted flatly. Congratulations. But did you watch it? Did you talk to anyone involved? Did you spend even 10 minutes trying to understand why this story matters? Why it's different, why it needs to be told now? He paused, letting the silence stretch. Or did you just show up expecting me to do all the heavy lifting while you nod and smile and pretend to care? The studio was utterly silent now. Even the technical crew had stopped moving. This wasn't just uncomfortable television anymore. It was something raw, electric, a masterclass in confrontation. Everyone watching knew they were witnessing something extraordinary. Strahan's jaw tightened. You know what, Kevin? Maybe you're right. Maybe I didn't prepare as much as I should have, he admitted, his voice trembling with controlled anger. But that doesn't give you the right to come on this show and disrespect me in front of our audience. Disrespect? Costner's voice rose slightly, for the first time betraying real emotion. You want to talk about disrespect? Let me tell you what's disrespectful. Treating art like it's disposable, reducing years of work, the passion and dedication of hundreds of people, to a throwaway question designed to fill time between commercials. Acting like you're doing me a favor by having me here when the truth is you need content, and I'm just the next warm body to fill your segment. That's not fair. Strahan snapped, his voice matching Costner's intensity now. We invited you here because we wanted to celebrate your work. Did you? Costner fired back. Or did you invite me because my name gets clicks and your producers thought it would boost your ratings? Strahan suddenly stood from behind his desk, a bold, risky move that sent a visible ripple through the studio. You don't get to come on my show and tell me what my intentions are, he said sharply. Costner didn't move. Remaining seated, he looked almost regal, calm, grounded, completely in control. Your show? He repeated. That's interesting. I thought this was Good Morning America. I thought it belonged to the network, to the viewers, to the tradition of broadcast journalism. But you're right, Michael. You've made it your show. You've made it about you. And that's exactly the problem. Strahan's face hardened. What's that supposed to mean? He demanded. It means, Costner said evenly, his tone dropping back to that dangerous calm, that somewhere along the way, you stopped being a host and started being a brand. Kevin Costner's words cut through the silence like a scalpel. You stopped asking questions because you wanted to know the answers, he said, his voice calm but unrelenting. You started asking them because you wanted to be part of the story. You wanted the clips, the sound bites, the moments that get shared on social media, with your face in the thumbnail. And in the process, you forgot what this job is supposed to be about. Strahan pointed a finger at him, his composure cracking. You don't know me, he said sharply. You don't know what I care about or what I stand for. You're right, Costner replied evenly. I don't know you, but I know what you just showed me. And what you showed me is someone who's more interested in being liked than being good at their job." "That's enough," Strahan snapped, his patience gone. "I think we should move on." "Move on to what?" Costner countered. "The next superficial question? The next attempt to get me to say something controversial so you can have your moment?" "No, Michael. We're not moving on. We're going to sit here and have the conversation you should have been prepared to have from the beginning." "I don't think so," Strahan said, shaking his head. "I don't have to sit here and take this." "You're absolutely right," Costner said as he stood up slowly, his presence towering even without raising his voice. "You don't have to sit here. You can walk away, you can cut to commercial, you can do whatever you need to do to protect your ego. But let me tell you something, and I want you to really hear this." He paused, locking eyes with Strahan. "The reason I'm being hard on you right now isn't because I don't like you. It's because I think you're better than this. You have the potential to be more than just another smiling face reading questions off a card. But you've gotten comfortable. You've gotten lazy. And nobody around you will tell you the truth because you're too big, too popular, too safe to challenge." Strahan stared at him, speechless. When he finally spoke, his tone had lost its fire, replaced with something quieter, almost reflective. "So you're challenging me?" "I'm holding up a mirror," Costner replied. "What you do with what you see is up to you." The silence that followed was thick and heavy. The co-hosts shifted awkwardly, clearly unsure how to intervene. Behind the cameras, producers in the control room were likely panicking, torn between cutting to commercial or letting this unbelievable exchange play out to its end. Finally, Strahan sank back into his chair, his expression unreadable. "Okay," he said slowly. "Let's do this your way. Tell me about the series. Tell me what I should have asked you." Costner studied him for a long, quiet moment, as if deciding whether this was a genuine shift or just another layer of television performance. Then, with deliberate calm, he sat back down. "All right," he said. "Here's what you should have asked me. You should have asked why. After spending years building Yellowstone into a cultural phenomenon, I chose to walk away from guaranteed success to start something completely new. You should have asked what it feels like to bet everything on a story that goes against every trend in modern entertainment, to make something slow and thoughtful in a world that demands instant gratification." Strahan nodded slowly. This time there was something new in his eyes, not defensiveness but focus. "So why did you do it?" he asked quietly. "Because I'm tired of playing it safe," Costner said. His voice carried the kind of weight that filled the entire room. "I'm tired of seeing the same stories told the same way. I'm tired of watching talented people compromise their vision because some executive is worried about algorithms and focus groups. This series, this story about brothers divided by war, about families torn apart by ideology, about people trying to hold on to their humanity in the face of unimaginable violence. This matters. It matters because we're living through our own kind of division right now. We're watching families fracture over politics, watching communities split over beliefs, watching people forget that the person they're arguing with is still a human being." Strahan's voice softened. "That's heavy," he said quietly. "It should be," Costner replied. "Art should be heavy. It should make you think. It should make you uncomfortable. It should hold up a mirror to society and force us to look at ourselves honestly. But you can't reach that depth if your first question is whether I'm just repeating myself. Do you see the difference now?" Strahan didn't respond immediately. The weight of the moment hung between them until he finally nodded, slow and sincere. "I do," he said. "And you're right. I should have dug deeper." "It's not too late," Costner said, leaning back. "We're still here. The cameras are still rolling. So ask me the real questions." Strahan took a deep breath, gathering himself. When he spoke again, his voice was calm, steady, and real. "Okay. In this series, you have two brothers who end up fighting on opposite sides of the Civil War. One believes he's fighting for freedom. The other believes he's defending his home and his way of life. Neither one is entirely wrong. Neither one is entirely right. How do you navigate that moral complexity without falling into the trap of both sidesism?" Costner's expression shifted. This was the question he had been waiting for. "That's exactly the challenge," he said. "And the answer is, you don't try to judge them. You don't tell the audience who to root for. You show their humanity. You show their doubt. You show the moments when they question everything they're fighting for, Because real people aren't heroes or villains. Real people are contradictions, capable of great love and great cruelty, sometimes in the same breath. He paused, the silence wrapping around his words like gravity. The youngest brother in our story joins the Union Army because he believes slavery is wrong. And he's right. But he's also naive. He thinks war will be noble and clean. He learns very quickly that it's neither. His older brother stays with the Confederacy because it's his home. Kevin Costner's expression shifted when the question was asked. It was the one he had been waiting for. The challenge of navigating the moral complexities of war without falling into the trap of both sidesism. His response was clear and measured. The answer is you don't try to judge them. You don't tell the audience who to root for. You show their humanity. You show their doubt. You show the moments where they question everything they're fighting for. His voice held weight as he spoke, the truth of his words settling in the room. He continued, "Real people aren't heroes and villains. Real people are contradictions. They're capable of great love and great cruelty, sometimes in the same breath." The room became still, as if everyone was absorbing the magnitude of this insight. He then turned to the two brothers at the heart of his story. The younger brother joins the Union Army, driven by a deep belief that slavery is wrong. His convictions are strong, but his understanding of war is naive. He expects it to be noble and clean, only to realize that it is neither. The older brother, on the other hand, stays with the Confederacy, not because he believes in its cause, but because it's home. It's where his friends are, and leaving would mean abandoning everything he's ever known. It's not about right or wrong. It's about the complexities of personal loyalty and circumstance. Costner went on explaining that the question of right and wrong wasn't so simple. Does this make him wrong? Yes. Does it make him evil? That's more complicated. Strahan, listening intently, asked, "So you're asking the audience to empathize with someone fighting for the Confederacy?" "I'm asking the audience to understand that people are products of their time and circumstances," Costner responded, emphasizing the difference between understanding and condoning. You can recognize why someone made the choices they made without agreeing with those choices. That's what empathy is, and we've lost a lot of that. We've lost the ability to hold two contradictory thoughts in our heads at the same time. We want everything to be simple, everyone to be clearly good or clearly bad, but life isn't like that. History isn't like that. Strahan, clearly engaged, leaned forward. There's a scene in the trailer where the two brothers meet on the battlefield. They recognize each other and freeze. Can you talk about that moment? Costner's voice grew more passionate, his eyes lighting up as he spoke about the pivotal scene. That moment is the heart of the entire series. These brothers haven't seen each other in 2 years. They've both changed. They've both killed people, watched friends die, and suddenly, in the middle of all this chaos, they're face to face. And all the ideology, all the righteousness, all the certainty they've been clinging to, it just evaporates. In that moment, they're not Union and Confederate. They're not enemies. They're brothers. He paused, letting the gravity of the moment sink in. They realize that this war, this thing they've both committed to, it's cost them something they can never get back. Strahan asked, "Do they fight?" "You'll have to watch to find out," Costner replied with a sly smile. "But I will tell you this, whatever happens in that scene, it's not what you expect. And it stays with you long after it's over." Strahan nodded, a thoughtful look crossing his face. "This is the conversation we should have been having from the beginning." Costner agreed. "And it took us getting into a fight to get here." "What does that tell you?" Strahan let out a long breath before responding. "It tells me that conflict, real honest conflict, can lead to something better if both people are willing to move past their defenses." "Exactly," Costner said. "That's the lesson. That's what the series is about. That's what this whole conversation has been about. We could have stayed on the surface, traded pleasantries, and you would have gotten your safe, forgettable interview. But instead, we challenged each other. We pushed back. We made each other uncomfortable. And now we're actually talking about something that matters." Strahan's voice was sincere. "I appreciate you pushing me, even if it was rough." Costner nodded. "It had to be rough, because you're not going to grow from people telling you you're great. You're going to grow from people telling you the truth even when it's hard to hear, especially when it's hard to hear." Strahan smiled, this time without the usual television grin. It was a genuine smile. You know, when you walked out here today, I thought this was going to be just another interview. Easy, smooth, done in 10 minutes. Costner grinned back. And instead, you got your teeth kicked in. Strahan laughed, truly laughed. Yeah, I did. But I needed it. We all need it sometimes, Costner said. We all need someone to remind us that we can be better, that we should be better. That's what good art does. That's what good conversation does. It doesn't let you off the hook. It doesn't tell you what you want to hear. It tells you what you need to hear. Strahan extended his hand across the desk. Thank you, Kevin. Seriously, thank you for not letting me get away with being lazy. Costner shook his hand firmly. Thank you for being willing to actually engage once you got over yourself. The audience, who had been holding their breath throughout the conversation, erupted into applause. It wasn't the typical, polite applause of daytime television. It was real, energized, the kind of applause that comes from witnessing something authentic. Strahan, looking into the camera, spoke directly to the viewers. Kevin Costner's new series premieres next week, and based on this conversation, I can tell you it's going to be something special, not because it's easy or comfortable, but because it's willing to challenge us, and that's what we need more of. Costner nodded, his voice steady. That's all any of us can do. Tell the truth as we see it and hope it resonates with people who are looking for something real. As the cameras cut away, viewers across the country sat stunned. This was not the interview they expected when they tuned in for their morning coffee. This was something else entirely. It was a reminder that live television, when allowed to be truly live, when people are allowed to be truly honest, can still surprise us, can still matter. What they had witnessed was a masterclass in not backing down, in demanding better from the people around you, and in turning conflict into something meaningful. Kevin Costner didn't shut down Michael Strahan out of ego or anger. He shut him down because he saw potential being wasted, talent being squandered, and he refused to participate in the charade. If you enjoyed this story and want to see more content like this, make sure you hit that subscribe button and drop a comment below. Do you think Costner was too harsh on Strahan? Or did Strahan need to hear exactly what Costner told him? I want to know what you think.